Hello.
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 Hi there.
Hello and welcome to the RadioTimes.com podcast. We'll be previewing all of the weekend's Premier League action on TV. I'm Michael Potts, RadioTimes.com sport editor, and I'm joined today by Mr. Matthew Ketchell from Match of the Day magazine.
Hello, Michael.
How you doing?
Yeah, good.
I'm doing very well. You know, I love this time of year. Bit of Champions League football, bit of thunder.
Bit of crispy
It's
leaves
a
on the
dramatic
ground.
time. It's a dramatic time of year. And the Premier League is continuing to heat up with another batch of... We have 4 games on TV this weekend. We'll just dive straight into it, shall we? With Brighton versus Spurs. It's on Saturday, 5th of October. It's BT Sport 1. It's 12:30 kickoff. Spurs, not the best of midweeks for them. They've had better Tuesday nights.
Yeah, that wasn't so great. But Spurs have more points now than this time last season. So
Yeah.
you know, perhaps it's not all doom and gloom at Spurs.
Yeah, they're an interesting team, aren't they? I mean, you keep thinking they've got it together. They've got it right again. They beat Stuffed Palace before. They beat Southampton before. And then just something like this comes along and sort of just seems it's one step forward, 2 steps back with them at the minute. They can't play out from the back. They just can't play out from the back, and I've had this in my head for the last year or so. I've watched them a few times. Watched them in, I think it was the North London derby last year. Watched them again last night, and a few just scattered European games throughout the season. I can't see them playing out from the back well. I've actually seen it happen once.
Well, they need a plan B, don't they? I think this is a Champions League hangover. I think them getting to the Champions League was their trophy. That was an amazing achievement, and it's as if they've won a trophy. And now I think they're struggling to motivate themselves, and there's issues there with Eriksen, who might want away, and then massive underperforming players like Lloris, who's been dreadful. He was making clangers last season, but Pochettino loves him. He won't take him out of the team. He's the captain, but he's making serious errors. Like I'd be interested to see his stats leading to goals. And then Aurier, very poor, unreliable player who is a bit of a risk in terms of getting sent off and suspended. And then Sissoko, I don't get Sissoko. I'm a Newcastle fan, so all I see is a player running and tackling. That's your job, mate. That's what you should be doing. But they've given him a new contract, and they're playing him week in, week out. I don't think he's the answer. So it's a bit disjointed at the minute for Spurs, but I do think they'll be okay. They just need to not panic.
Yeah, I don't think it's catastrophe time. I don't think it's anything particularly massively rotten with the club. Just think there's so many, like you've pointed out there, a lot of individual errors, and I think the other night we saw just slack passing out from the back, just you're basically giving it to Bayern on a plate, and when they're finishing like they did the other night, that's obviously going to rack up a cricket score. Again, Lloris looking like an absolute melon the other day against Southampton. That was something. What was he trying to do there? I just think they've got to. It's a bit like Everton. I just think they've got to go back to basics a little bit. Just strip it back. Don't necessarily, over elaborate. I think they've sort of almost got to this complicated stage. Yeah. Again, like you say, Eriksen, people like that have just looked a bit off the boil as well. But yeah, an interesting side. I don't quite agree with this idea that Spurs have gone stale. In terms of bringing in new players, things like that. I feel like that maybe so if that's over 5 or 6 years, but I think this is over one season. We think this rot has happened. Obviously, they got the Champions League final. Surely having those players together can only bring them together.
It's mostly the same team. The team has the spine of the team hasn't really changed dramatically. They've only brought in, let's have a look at Ndombele, who I thought was great, and until he went off against Bayern, they were in the game. And then Sessegnon still to come, who I think is a good signing. So
keep forgetting about Sessegnon.
Yeah,
actually,
he's probably not far back. I know he had a little setback, so he's probably due to come back into the team soon. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. This I was looking at the stats. Tottenham have failed to win their last 9 away matches in the Premier League. Brighton have failed to win their last 8 home matches, so draw.
Let's go with that. We'll move on to Brighton actually. Again, I feel like transition is the word we're just going to keep repeating over and over when Brighton are on TV. They're moving from one style with Houghton to a very different style with Graham Potter, but we all know how this ends. This all roads lead to Glenn Murray.
It's all coming back to Glenn Murray. I think they're persevering with Mopai. They're starting him. He's getting minutes. He's not completed 90 minutes yet, so they're giving him the chance. They're starting him in games. So, I mean, in an ideal world, he gets going. He has got a couple of goals, but I think Graham Potter it's admirable what he's doing. He's persevering with his beliefs and his signings, but at what point does he start sacrificing his beliefs to get wins and long balls up to Murray to try and win games? That's going to be the interesting thing with this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Maupay was phenomenal for Brentford. Brentford are actually really struggling without him this year to find the net. And yeah, I guess it's just, well, like you say, how long do you give people like that? Sort of, how patient are you with people like that to get the best out of them before you turn to more reliable, if not the style they want to play, strikers? Yeah, interesting. I didn't know that about Spurs away form, Brighton's home form, but it's not good. I fancy Spurs for this one narrowly. Harry Kane, I feel like with all the stuff going on with Spurs, we sort of masked over how good Harry Kane has been recently. He scored or assisted in his last 8 games for club and country.
Superb. Talismanic.
Yeah, fantastic. And again, that's exactly the sort of play you need when you're in a bit of a dodgy patch. Yeah, fancy a little 1-0.
I think a draw. I'm going to go draw. I'm going to stick with I think it'll cancel each other out and just get away with a draw each.
Fair play. Moving straight on to the Saturday evening game, which is West Ham versus Crystal Palace, Sky Sports Premier League and main event. It's a 5:30 kickoff. West Ham, man, it's so good to watch. I mean, I'm really enjoying them. I know they had the setback against Oxford, but I'm loving, in particular, Seb Haller up front. Hasn't quite found the net too often. Hasn't been the man to assist the goals. But he's such a handful, such a handful. And the other day his touch was phenomenal to drag it back for the goal. Think he's the real deal.
Like a robust Andy Carroll.
Andy Carroll, which is essentially what you want.
The whole forward line looks pretty good. Yarmolenko just looks strong and powerful, fully rehabbed. Fornals and Anderson. And Lanzini, I think he's a quality player. He's been out injured. He's just ready to come in. So I think they've got 3 forwards and a strong striker up there. So they've recruited really well. Fair play to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And fair play as well, I guess, to Sullivan and Gould, who have a bit of a reputation for not always being the greatest master tacticians behind a football club. But they've done well in bringing, they've backed the manager. They've got in Pellegrini to start with, which that was a bit of a coup in itself. Brought some big players in. They're really on the up.
They just back their manager, don't they? Put their money where their mouth is, and they go big every transfer window. It looks like they might have finally cracked it.
Yeah. Should be interesting, I guess. Top 6, top 7 sort of contention, maybe. Top 6 might be a step too far for them, but certainly on the outskirts of that. And they're up against Crystal Palace this weekend at the London Stadium. And once again, another experienced manager just getting the most out of his players, really.
Palace just quietly going about it. I got a stat here. I believe only Arsenal, Liverpool and Man City have won more games in 2019 than Palace.
Something going.
And it's gone under the radar a bit, they're just kind of consistent. They got that win at Old Trafford, and you can't even say Zaha's been carrying the team. I think he's just been kind of 7 out of 10, and it's been a really good team performance from Palace, and they're just going about their business.
Yeah, well, that's I've actually got Zaha's stats written down here: 0 goals, 1 assist, and that 1 assist was last week, and yet they're sitting fairly comfortably in the top half.
That's not a £100 million pound player, is it?
It's not. You're wasting money. No, but they're doing this without their main player, turning up every week and knocking it out the park, and without a real sort of recognised striker. I mean, they've got Ayew, who is all right. I mean, is he anything more than all right? Not quite sure. Benteke, Benteke is Benteke, and Connor Wickham, who has vanished off the face of the earth, and that's it. That's all they've got up front, and yet they're pulling out these wins and
strikerless system.
Roy's
cracked
the
it.
4-6-0 with.
But normally, I think you would look at this game and go, West Ham Palace. But actually, this is a really tasty game for Saturday night. I think there's 2 informed teams here, a bit of London derby vibes. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Palace not the best record away from home, where you probably expect them to maybe sit and be fairly content for the point, and then maybe turn up the heat in the last 15 minutes or so. But yeah, I agree. Two decent teams who will both see an opportunity for points here. I'm going with a West Ham. I'm going with a narrow win.
I think so.
But I agree with you. I think it's going to be a pretty tight one. We'll see how that one goes. Moving on to Super Sunday, we have Southampton versus Chelsea on Sky Sports Premier League and main event. It's a 2:00 kickoff. I'm actually going to this one.
Oh, wow.
Don't know how I've ended up doing that, but I am going. We'll start with Chelsea. They won 2-0 last week, and I think that's pretty much the result they need. They need to start turning those 4-2, 5-2, 4-3s into 1-0s and 2-0s. Just pretty comfortable, clean sheets.
There's something really satisfying about the young homegrown English players coming through and just landing on their feet and running and going with it and really pulling out some big performances. Mount, Tammy Abrahams, Tomori. I love Tomori. He's like, it's like he's the number one centre half at the minute. Who's going to play alongside him? You got Zuma and Christensen, who haven't been great. Rudiger can't get fit. I think he is a mainstay now in the heart of the Chelsea defence. And they're just, again, another team that have. I wasn't confident Lampard would come in and do as well as he has done, but he's been great as well, making brave decisions. I've enjoyed his press conferences, his interviews after the game. He's got a sense of humour and a bit of personality.
He's got a really good temperament, hasn't he, for a manager?
Yeah, and they've got Hudson-Odoi and Loftus-Cheek's probably a month away, so looking really good. Chelsea, it's like a little England development squad.
Yeah, I like it. I can't really add more than that, really. Loftus-Cheek. You forget about him, don't you? And Hudson-Odoi's come straight back into it. He's already firing. Can't wait to see what he can do over the course of a season. Frank Lampard stepped up pretty wonderfully from Derby County, who are actually struggling without him as well. Chelsea, how far do you think they can actually go this year? I was thinking about this because I had the unfortune of watching Man United Arsenal the other night. And if we're saying those are their main rivals for a top 4 spot, I don't think they've got too much to worry about. Yeah. I know it's a transition year for them, and I guess if they finish 6th, 7th, it's not the end of the world. It's the start of something, not the decline and the end of something. But I just can't see United actually putting together consistency and scoring the goals to get ahead of Chelsea this year.
Well, my prediction was for Man United and Chelsea to both miss out on top 4. I think Chelsea might get it. What will be interesting is how does that squad cope with the Champions League games as well, because that's a young, inexperienced European squad basically, and how they're going to cope when injuries kick in, things like that. So that will be the big test. But they've made a great start and given themselves a good early chance.
Yeah, when we're quickly looking at depth of Chelsea, we got Pulisic coming out this week, basically saying he's a bit frustrated with not quite getting the game time. He's got a few assists in his 6 games so far. Do you think he deserves a bit more of a crack over somebody like Willian, who I'm not particularly sold on Willian?
Well, he's consistent, very consistent player, Willian, and I think Lampard's, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think the team are winning, they're performing, and until someone gets injured or has a drop in form, why would you put Pulisic in there? Just keep him on ice, like you say, if he needs him when the Champions League comes around. That actually, Pulisic is someone with vast Champions League experience, so he could probably get his chance there. And if he wants to get into the Premier League first team, do the business in the Champions League.
Yeah, exactly. They travel to Southampton this weekend. Nice to see Danny Ings getting on the score sheet a few times. Had a bit of an injury-plagued career, but he's turning up. Shea Adams still looking for that goal. It's sort of eluding him at the minute.
Is the podcast ready for XG? Are you into expected goals? This is the algorithm that rates the quality of chances created.
You brought your A game with the prep here, by the way.
Southampton are 5th in the league for XG, so they're creating the 5th best quality of chances in the league. But they're no one's there to put it away. Adams is yet to score.
I think he's yet to score. Yeah.
So that's what they're missing. I think they missed a big opportunity away at Spurs, with Spurs being down to 10 men for such a long time. So that was a missed opportunity. They just need to get. They should be better than they are, Southampton. Basically, if they want to be a top 10 side, then they need to put away the chances better.
I was thinking that they're almost quite a sad story actually, Southampton, because you feel like the amount of players who pass through their doors, the ones they brought through from being children to the players they've brought in and gone on a direct conveyor belt at Anfield. It's quite sad. Like, where does it stop? And what, I don't know, what is their identity in the Premier League anymore? I think there's a lot of clubs with that similar problem of just maybe making up the numbers, not quite challenging for top 10, not quite bad enough to go down. They're just sort of there, aren't they?
I think it's a well-run club, Southampton, and I think the idea is they invest their money and just try and improve year on year, and they've had a few kind of dodgy years, and it's like you say, they just reap the money for the players they've developed and try and incrementally improve every year, but it's very difficult.
Absolutely. Going with the Chelsea win here.
I would say the same.
Yeah, I fancy them to. you just love to see them in full flow and getting a few goals. You saw them at Wolves, the other day, 5-2. Fancy them to put a few past Southampton maybe this weekend.
Confident young team.
Moving on, here we go. Moving on to the late game on Sunday. It's Sky Sports Premier League, a main event, a 4:30 kickoff. It's Newcastle versus Manchester United. It would be easy to sit here for an hour, Ketch, and discuss your beloved Newcastle.
Oh, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, we'd have to give you a very stiff drink, but that would be a treat as a Sunderland fan there. But no, I think we've covered a lot of the issues so far, so we'll stick to a couple. Big Steve cancelling training after a 5-0 loss.
I love this.
That's going to do it.
Yeah, let's get them in for less training.
Yeah, you know what we need to do? Not as much.
The mad thing is, after we had a terrible performance against Norwich, lost 3-1, second game of the season, and they were hauling for training the next day, and then went on and beat Spurs. So wouldn't you think get them back in and work on shape all week and work out where people are playing and who to kick to when we get free kicks? That would be massively helpful. But no, he's given them the day off, and the reason for giving them the day off was because he was so angry with them that he would just maybe hairdryer a second round of hairdryer after the Sunday night hairdryer, that he spared them that and give them the day off. So, but it's interesting. Let's see how it works out. I'm not confident.
Hashtag passion from Steve Bruce there. Another one. So Dwight Gale, he's sort of coming back into fitness, coming back into contention. Maybe
no, not at all. Bruce hasn't seen him train. He said.
Oh, really?
He's got a weird calf injury, Dwight Gale, and they're struggling to get him fit. And Bruce hasn't even seen him train. He said last week, so he's just way out of contention. So you're looking at Joe Linton and Andy Carroll for your forward options.
Is there any chance, I guess, of Gale, if he does make it back, could he be a bit of an ace up the sleeve for Bruce, or
who knows? I mean, he's got pace. I think balls over the top. If you want to get, we could do with Lejeune back at centre half. He would get the ball, ping diagonals. Shelvey, we know, likes to do that. So balls over the top could be. If you've got St Maximin, Gale, and Almiron, there's some pace there up front, and balls over the top could be the one. But and catch teams on the counter attack. That's a bit of tactics. If you're listening to Steve Bruce, then there's a tactical option for you, because we haven't seemed to display many so far this season.
Yeah, well, I mean, they could have worked on that on Monday, couldn't they? Really, but no, and they face Man United, who are dealing with their own lack of spark. So Marcus Rashford, not totally sold on Marcus Rashford. It's a bit of a controversial one, maybe, but I just think he sometimes looks so out of sorts, and we know he's got so much talent. We know he's got that cracker of a shot in him, and he can change a game in an instant. But overall, I'm just not sure he's really got the consistency to lead Man United going forward.
It kind of reminds me of the Theo Walcott situation at Arsenal a few years ago, where they gave him a new contract and said, right, you're playing as a striker now, you're playing through the middle, and it just never happened. And I think what we're seeing is it's becoming apparent that his best position is wide of a three. So. And I think that would benefit him in terms of England as well, because he's not going to take Harry Kane's place as striker. I think Marcus maybe wants to play as a striker, but I think his mobility and speed and footwork probably lend better to a place out wide. So I think he's playing through the middle out of necessity at the minute, because there's no strikers. They've let them go, and they've had injuries. So yeah, it's difficult. He doesn't score much from open play either. His main goals have been penalties and free kicks. So it's a bit worrying as someone who owns him in fantasy football. It's just not happening for him. And what hasn't happened is the bad vibes at Man United, the worst start to a season in 30 years.
Poor, isn't it? Very poor. And this is the thing, you can't really expect a player. I think we all think Rashford is older than he actually is, and we can't really place all of that expectation on essentially a young lad. Sort of, that's a lot of weight on his shoulders to lead that whole line by himself. Just think letting Lukaku go just looks more strange each week that goes by.
That's guaranteed goals have let go.
Yeah,
which is not a good. I don't think Man United needed to let him go. They're not a selling club, so
he's an unconventional striker, I guess. Lukaku, he doesn't always. There are games where you just want to shake him, but on the whole, like you say, he's guaranteed goals and a bit of a. Something to ground the strike force with, if Rashford is drifting either side of him, and he's a bit of an anchor point for them up front, isn't he, really? But alas, he is not there any longer. One positive for United, McTominay in the middle.
United, which one?
Oh, not this again.
Manchester United, please.
Manchester United.
Especially with this fixture.
There's no positives for Newcastle United. No, Man United, we have Scott McTominay in the middle. Bit of a great strike the other day. Like to see him just grab the game by the scruff of the neck. I've probably used that phrase more times than anything else on this podcast over the weeks. But I just like a player who, you know, when it's a bit of a stale game, whether the team's in a bit of a rut, somebody who's just going to step up and do something like he did the other night. Doing
what Paul Pogba should be doing, so putting Pogba to shame, and fair play to him, young hungry player. That's probably what Man United could do with at the minute.
Yeah, good player to build their midfield around. Prediction for this one is just an awful game. Can't really. Yeah. Sorry, I know we're trying to sell this game to you and try and make you watch it, but I'm not seeing much from this one. I feel like Manchester United's lack of spark. Newcastle United's lack of spark.
I think there'll be goals.
You think?
All for Man United.
Not positive.
It's difficult to convey how bad Newcastle are at the minute, and Man United really need to get some momentum going, get some wins on the board. I think they'll be hungry after a bit of a disappointing night on Monday. Although they came away with the point, I think they'll see this as a big opportunity to get some goals, and I can see them winning by 2 or 3.
Yeah, I've got to know if Mason Greenwood maybe players might be his time to step up and mix things up for United, possibly.
That leads nicely onto fantasy.
I've got one more thing about United, actually. Sorry, this isn't a good one. A Steve Bruce stat. We all love a Steve Bruce stat. He's managed teams 22 times against Man United in his career, yet to win. He's drawn 5 and lost 17. I remember that stat from our days, and he was hopeless against Man United every time.
It's almost as if he's not a Premier League quality manager.
Moving on. This is your chance to prove you are a Premier League quality manager, Ketch.
Okay.
Fantasy Premier League. How's it going? What's going on?
Ooh, it's very middle of the road. I've wildcarded, and it didn't do the trick for me. So I just need to now get my head down till the January window. Maybe captain's picks is key in this game, and I'm getting it wrong most weeks. So that's where my issue is.
Yeah, I've decided. So I've been sticking with Sterling. I've been pretty much sticking with Sterling and trying to be as consistent as possible, because there's a big game coming up from soon at some point. I don't want to miss it. That's not going too well so far. Obviously, KDB is injured. I've had him since day one when I got him when he was 9.5 million. He's gone up to about 10 million now. So I'm not sure whether to sell, stick or twist.
I'm going to keep. Yeah, he could make the weekend.
Yeah, he's listed as 50-50 on the official site. I think I'm going to probably throw a sub in and hold on for now. So I'd recommend that. But yeah, who knows what's going to happen with Man City? He could be fit. No Guardiola. He could have sent him to his Spanish doctor and fit and ready to go again. Few defenders for you. We've got Eric Peters, 3rd assist of the season. Couple of clean sheets to his name. Everton next, under 5 million. Cresswell, 2 games this season, 2 goals, both phenomenal goals.
West Ham got some great fixtures as well.
Yeah, great strikes and great fixtures. Plenty of optimism around him. And a cheap midfield option. Got Jorginho here. He is now the designated penalty taker for Chelsea following the Barkley shambles. He's only 5 million. I'm not saying we should be starting him every week, but if you're looking for somebody to fill a spot on your bench, probably worse options.
And look at their games. You've got Southampton away, Newcastle at home, Burnley away, and Watford. So that's a winnable game.
A lot of tricky forwards as well who, not saying they're going to throw themselves down, but a lot of tricky forwards who might cause a bit of problem in the box for teams.
Yeah, like it.
Any shouts?
For Chelsea,
for anybody,
I think Chelsea players. So Tammy, Mount, Alonso, maybe who's a fantasy football legend. I think he's going to come again. He's going to have one more good season. So I'm thinking Chelsea with their fixtures coming up.
Fair play, and that rounds us off for the Fantasy Premier League tips. Ketch, could you show us what's in Match of the Day magazine this week?
I could, yeah. What is the best league in Europe? Do you think, Michael? In your opinion,
I've got a niche opinion on this.
Yeah, we're interested.
I mean, I would say Premier League probably takes it, but my favourite, I love the Championship.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I love the Championship.
Oh, wow. Fair play.
For sheer drama, I know that's probably caught you wrong-footed there.
I
know. We dream of the Championship. For sheer drama, Championship. Love it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's not what you were wanting.
Well, no, that's our feature in this week's issue. What is the best league in the world? And we've stated a case for some of them, and we're inviting readers to go online and vote. And we'll announce the results in a future issue. And we're also giving away some England tickets for the game against Montenegro, which is England's 1,000th international.
Oof,
So that's a big one to be at Wembley if you want to win tickets for that. And I got to show you this, right? We've
for
done
it.
this funniest feature I've ever seen this season.
He is presenting me with haircuts.
How footballers used to look. So we've got Eric Gates here, age 32. He looks
Yes.
about 47. We've got Brian Kilcline here.
Kilcline looks like Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
You noticed this before?
It's amazing. So we found these old pictures of footballers, and I think kids are going to be blown away by what footballers used to look like.
That is phenomenal. There aren't enough Lothar Hubers around.
No, can you believe he's 20? He's 24 in that
No,
picture.
he's not.
Yeah, you got to pick up Match of the Day this weekend and
mate.
have a look at Lothar Herbert on page 13. He is a 24-year-old. He looks about 57.
So if you take one thing away from this podcast, is that there aren't enough bald footballers, there aren't enough mustache footballers, and there aren't enough decrepit footballers.
Yeah.
This has been the Premier League podcast for this week. Come to radiotimes.com/sport for all of your sporting previews. We have plenty on the Premier League this weekend. We've got World Athletics, we've got rugby, we've got a bit of everything for you. So come and take a look. Thank you very much for listening.